It was the morning of the biggest deal of Minal Corporation's history. The deal had the potential to change the global market, involving a $100 million contract with one of the wealthiest investors in the world, an investor who only spoke Arabic. But there was a problem. The high-powered executives at Minal Corporation had only one translator, and he had failed to show up at the last minute. The tension in the conference room was palpable. The boardroom, normally filled with confident executives, now felt like a trap, closing in around them. The deal was on the brink of collapsing, and they needed someone who could speak Arabic fast. The clock was ticking. Minutes, seconds felt like hours. The contract was about to slip away. The door creaked open. Standing in the doorway was Sarah, the 17-year-old janitor who had worked at Minal Corporation for almost a year. Her dark skin, curly hair tied in a neat bun, and a janitor's uniform were a far cry from the sleek suits of the executives around the table. But what set Sarah apart was something no one expected. Sarah had a secret. She could speak fluent Arabic, a skill she had inherited from her late father, who had taught her the language during their time together in Cairo. Despite her humble role in the company, Sarah had learned not to boast about it. But now, she was the only person who could save the deal. Sarah had always lived in the shadows of Minal Corporation. A 17-year-old janitor, she was just another face among countless others who worked in the background, never seen by the executives or high-level managers who ran the company. Every day, she did her job quietly and efficiently, sweeping the floors, scrubbing windows, emptying trash bins, and cleaning the conference rooms where important meetings took place. Over the course of her year at Minal, Sarah had heard snippets of conversations, strategies for new business, heated debates about mergers, and executives boasting about their latest deals. She had learned a lot just by listening, though she was never a part of those discussions. Sarah had grown accustomed to her invisibility. In a way, it was a comfort to her. No expectations, no pressure. She didn't need to prove herself in this corporate world. Instead, she moved quietly between the walls, blending in, always unnoticed. She found solace in that anonymity, almost taking pride in it. Yet, deep inside, she knew that one day this quiet life would change. Today, Sarah was about to step out of the shadows. Her father had always believed in her potential, even when the world around them had little faith. He had been a businessman in Cairo, but when his business failed, they moved to the U.S. after his passing. Through every hardship, he taught Sarah the importance of never giving up on her dreams. He had instilled in her the love of learning, exploring, and, above all, embracing the world through the power of language. Arabic had been his passion. It became hers as well. He had taught her how to speak it fluently before his passing, and even after his death, the lessons he imparted continued to guide her. Despite everything, he instilled in Sarah a deep sense of pride in her heritage and the power of knowledge. Now, as Sarah stood outside the boardroom, her heart pounded with a mix of nerves and excitement. She had never imagined that one day she would have to use her Arabic skills in such a high-stakes situation. But this wasn't just about her language proficiency. This was about the moment she would make her presence known, not as the janitor, but as someone capable of changing the course of the day's events. She took a deep breath, stepped forward, and pushed open the door, just enough for her to slip inside. The room went silent, all eyes turning to her. She had expected to be ignored, but instead, they all stared at her in disbelief, as if they had forgotten she even existed. Mr. Taylor, the CEO, was the first to break the silence. Can we help you?" he asked, his voice tight with frustration, clearly unprepared for another disruption. "I'm sorry to interrupt," Sarah said, her voice calm and steady despite the rising tension in the room. "But I can help with the translation. I speak Arabic." For a brief moment, there was complete silence. The executives exchanged bewildered glances, their minds struggling to process what they were hearing. Sarah could feel the weight of their disbelief, but she stood firm. She wasn't backing down now. "You speak Arabic?" Mr. Taylor asked, his eyes narrowing as if to double-check if she was serious. "Yes," Sarah replied confidently, meeting his gaze. "I can help." Her heart raced as she waited for their reaction. In that instant, the stakes were no longer just about translating a language. They were about proving that a person's worth is not defined by their job title or their outward appearance. She had waited for this moment her entire life. With each passing minute, Sarah's confidence grew. The weight in the room, once heavy with skepticism, began to shift. The atmosphere changed. The executives, who had once seen her as an outsider, now viewed her differently. Their expressions softened as they began to recognize her value. She was no longer just a janitor. She was becoming an integral part of this crucial meeting. As the conversation between Khalid Al-Faisal and the Minal Corporation executives unfolded, Sarah effortlessly navigated from one complex business term to the next, her voice steady and clear. She wasn't simply translating words. She was interpreting intentions, motivations, and visions for the future. Each sentence carried more weight than just the financial details. It reflected a deeper understanding of what truly mattered. Khalid Al-Faisal, speaking with calm authority, wasn't merely discussing a multi-million-dollar investment. He spoke of legacy, trust, and integrity, values that would ensure long-term success. Sarah could hear the sincerity in his words. This wasn't just a business transaction. It was a vision for something that would last, something that could change lives. She understood this deeply. In that pivotal moment, Sarah realized she wasn't just facilitating communication. She was playing an instrumental role in shaping the future of Minal Corporation. It wasn't about translating words. It was about translating shared goals, transcending language and culture. Her voice, her presence, was influencing the outcome in ways no one could have anticipated. As the meeting progressed, Sarah noticed the change in the executives' eyes. They no longer saw her as the janitor. She was now an equal, a valuable contributor. Mr. Taylor, the CEO, who had once dismissed her, was now nodding in agreement with every translation. His respect for her grew with each word she spoke. The realization dawned that Sarah wasn't just filling space. She was making the deal possible. The same deal that had seemed lost just an hour ago was now moving closer to completion. Sarah felt the shift in the room. She wasn't just an observer anymore. She had become an essential part of the team. For the first time, she truly felt like she mattered. She wasn't invisible. Her role in this moment, in this deal, was undeniable. She was a key player in a multi-million-dollar deal, a feeling she would never forget. Just as the conversation reached its peak, something unexpected happened. Khalid Al-Faisal, the investor whose presence had loomed over the entire meeting, turned his piercing gaze towards Sarah. The moment felt charged, as if time had momentarily stopped. The room fell into a tense silence, and for the first time, Sarah was no longer just a background figure in the discussion. She was now the focus, the center of attention. Khalid's voice, steady and authoritative, broke the silence. "What do you think of this deal?" he asked in Arabic, his gaze never leaving hers. "Do you believe in the vision we are creating here?" Sarah's heart skipped a beat. The question, though simple on the surface, carried a weight that was far beyond business strategy. It wasn't about the numbers, the potential returns, or the intricate details of the contract. It was personal. Khalid Al-Faisal wasn't asking her opinion on the logistics of the deal. He was asking if she truly understood the bigger picture, the deeper values that underpinned everything they were discussing. He wanted to know if she believed in what they were building, not just the money, but the legacy they could create together. The entire room waited, their eyes fixed on her, expecting an answer. Sarah felt the weight of their gaze, but there was something else, something inside her that had shifted the moment she stepped into this room. This was her moment, the chance to prove that she wasn't just a janitor. She wasn't defined by her uniform or her job title. What mattered now was her ability to connect, to see beyond the surface and understand what truly mattered. This wasn't just a job for her anymore. This was about belief, about trusting in something greater than the immediate returns, about seeing the future and knowing that her words could influence not just the deal, but the direction in which this company, this vision, would move. Taking a deep breath, Sarah's mind focused on the core values she'd always held close. She had always believed in the importance of legacy, of building something meaningful that outlived the moment. And in that instant, Sarah spoke, her voice steady and sure as she replied in Arabic. This deal is not just about money. It is about building a legacy, about creating something that will outlast all of us. And that is what makes it worth fighting for. The room fell into silence once again. Khalid's expression softened, and he nodded slowly. His eyes, which had once been filled with calculation, now gleamed with approval. The executives, once skeptical and dismissive of Sarah's presence, exchanged looks of quiet respect. They had just witnessed something extraordinary. Sarah wasn't just translating words. She was translating the very soul of the deal. In that moment, something profound clicked within Sarah. She wasn't just a janitor anymore. She wasn't a background player in someone else's game. She was a bridge. And bridges, she realized, were meant to connect people across barriers, across differences, across cultures. They were meant to bring people together in ways that nothing else could. Her presence here, her voice, had done just that. As the conversation resumed, Sarah felt something shift inside her. She no longer felt invisible. She had become an integral part of something much bigger than herself. The deal was signed. The moment Sarah had never imagined in her wildest dreams had finally arrived. The $100 million investment, once hanging by a thread, was now secured. The room erupted in applause as the executives stood up, clapping with an enthusiasm that filled the air with a sense of triumph. But as the sound of applause echoed in her ears, Sarah realized something profound. It wasn't just her ability to speak Arabic that had sealed this deal. It was her deeper understanding of connection, her ability to look beyond the surface and truly communicate the essence of what was being discussed. She had done more than just translate words. She had conveyed meaning. Khalid Al-Faisal, the investor, had trusted her not just as a translator, but as someone who understood his vision, his goals, and the values that fueled the deal. It was a rare moment when business and personal integrity collided. While the numbers and strategies on the paper were vital, it was Sarah's insight, her ability to grasp the human element, that had made the difference. As the executives congratulated her, Sarah felt a warmth flood through her. She was still standing in the room, but for the first time, it felt as though she was present, seen, and valued not just for her skills, but for her character. For years, she had been the invisible worker, the janitor who swept the floors and emptied the trash. She was used to being dismissed, ignored, and unseen. But now, in this moment, she wasn't just a cog in the wheel. She was the catalyst that had propelled this deal forward. She felt an unfamiliar sense of pride well up inside her. It wasn't just about the applause or the congratulations. It was about the recognition of her value. The executives had acknowledged her not for what she did, but for who she was. They saw her insight, her wisdom, her ability to connect people across cultures and ideologies. That was what had sealed the deal. Her ability to understand that success in business and in life wasn't just about transactions, but about building relationships, understanding people's needs, and fostering trust. As she walked out of the conference room, the sound of applause still ringing in her ears, Sarah allowed herself a moment to reflect. She had come so far from the young girl who had swept floors and emptied trash bins, hoping for a better future. She had proven something today, not just to the company, but to herself. It wasn't where you started that mattered. It was what you brought to the table. It didn't matter what role you played in the world. Your voice, your belief, your actions had the power to change things. She had learned that no matter where you start or what you do, you can create change. You can make an impact. Sarah walked down the corridor, the weight of the day settling in. For the first time, she felt free to be more than just a background figure. She had shown the world the true power of connection, and in doing so, she had changed the course of history, not just for Minal Corporation, but for herself. If Sarah's story inspired you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more incredible tales of perseverance and transformation. Your support helps us continue bringing you stories that matter, stories that show the power of connection, integrity, and belief in yourself. If you believe in the power of integrity, faith, and the smallest actions making the biggest difference, share this story with someone who needs to hear it.